All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another NFL team preview video for the 2020 season. Today we continue on with the NFC North, and we've reached my team, the Minnesota Vikings, so let's begin. Okay, so I'm wearing the Chester Taylor jersey from a long time ago. I believe this is from 2007, 2006, somewhere around there. It's not Xavier Rhodes. It's the old 29 Chester Taylor. I think it was this, they got him the same year they drafted Peterson. But anyway, I digress. The jersey's old. Now you know. So, a lot to talk about with the Minnesota Vikings, who feel like, even from my perspective, and I can be honest about this, that it feels like the window of opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl is closing ever so slowly. And I'm glad I waited to do this episode because had I not, I'd be talking about Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman being on the hot seat, but they have both since signed contract extensions. They're going to be here for at least another 3 years. So leadership is staying put. Now, the only question is what they do with this roster going forward, because we're very hamstrung by the salary cap, which has caused a lot of free agents to be lost this offseason, and why the cornerback position is basically starting from scratch. But before we get into the depth chart for the next season, let's go ahead and talk about the 2019 recap. They were 10-6 overall last season. Offense ranked 16th in the league. They were 23rd in passing, 6th in rushing. Defense ranked 14th overall. They were 15th against the pass, 13th against the run. Mike Zimmer is, of course, your head coach, entering his 7th season with a career record of 57, 38, and 1. Snapshot of the previous 4 years. In 2018, they were 8-7-1. 2017, they were 13-3. I miss Case Keenum, and I missed that season. That season was so much fun. 2016, they were 8-8. I don't want to talk about that one. And 2015, they were 11-5. So really, it's been sort of, if you follow the pattern or follow the trends, it seems like we're due for an 8-8 season. And given the roster overhaul that's happened, offense and defense, it doesn't feel like we got better over the offseason. There's some good pieces that I like that have been added through the draft and free agency, but at the same time, it's going to be tough. They really have to go all out, stay healthy, and just have a better year than they did last year. Because despite the record being 10-6, I feel like it was an ugly 10-6. Like it was a bad 10-6, if that's possible. Because you got to consider they went 3-3 to end the season. Or no, they went 4-4 to end the season, if I remember correctly. I believe they started 2-2. Then there was that 4-game winning streak, and then they went 4-4 the rest of the way to end up at 10-6. So, we had some luck in the playoffs once again against the Saints, and then we just got decimated when we ran into the 49ers. It's a tale as old as time. Mike Zimmer not being able to get over the hump, which is why a lot of people question that he may or may not be on the hot seat entering this season, but that all those talks, of course, have melted away, given that he's been extended and he'll be here for a while longer. So, I mentioned already the overhaul of the roster and the different pieces we've got, so let's take a look at the projected starting depth chart heading into the 2020 season. And I'm going to start with defense because this is critical. This is Mike Zimmer's focus. Ever since he's gotten here, we've had a really strong top 5, top 10 defense, and it's going to be a struggle for him to keep that up this year. So taking a look, we have one of the best safety tandems in the league with Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith is one of the best leaders in the NFL, one of my favorite players. Of course, I have the jersey. And we were really close to losing Anthony Harris. There was trade rumors prior to the draft, during the draft, but we've since got him locked in for at least this year, so that is good. The cornerback position is going to be where we might struggle a little bit. Of course, we did take Jeff Gladney in the first round with our second first-round pick this previous draft. Mike Hughes does return, but he's had some injury struggles and hasn't really blossomed into that number 1 shutdown corner that we want him to. Of course, we also did get some help. We lost Mackenzie Alexander. We lost Trey Waynes. There was another one that we lost, but his name escapes me right now for the moment. But we did get Cam Dantzler in the draft too, and he's looking to be, after one day of practice, looking like he could definitely sneak in some first-team reps. He had a great workout today. Moving on to the linebacker position, of course, we got Anthony Barr after he ghosted the Jets a year ago, so glad to have him back, and second season in his return. Eric Kendricks is one of the better middle linebackers in the league. And then for the other position, I went with Eric Wilson over Ben Gideon. That's just personal preference. Debate me if you want to on that one. For the defensive line, we of course have one of the premier edge rushers in the league in Danielle Hunter. And if you don't know who he is yet, you're going to find out soon enough. For the rest of the defensive line, it's not great. We lost Everson Griffin in free agency. Michael Pierce, the free agent who we signed to take over the Sheldon Richardson role, has opted out for the season. So now we have Jalil Johnson and Shamar Stevens taking over on the interior. So that is the defense in a whole. And really, it's they also drafted DJ Wanham from I believe it was South Carolina in this previous draft, and a lot of people sort of compare him to a possible Danielle Hunter clone because of where he was drafted and his athleticism, if you will. But I don't know if I see that yet. So Wanham probably has a long way to go before Mike Zimmer trusts him with first team reps, if you will. Moving on to the offense now, it's funny because the first video that I made last year that I didn't upload to this channel, but I uploaded, of course, you can find some of our other work on facebook.com/VORsports. The first video that I made when I decided to get into making sports videos was about this offensive line. And last year, it wasn't great. This year, I still don't have that, that good warm feeling despite getting Ezra Cleveland in the draft. I don't think I've heard different things. One of the beat writers suggests that he probably will start week 1 and probably at left tackle. Other people are suggesting they'll kick him in and move him to guard where we really do need help. It just depends on how the situation folds out. But for right now, I'm going to pencil in Riley Reef as the starting left tackle, Pat Elflein at guard, Garrett Bradbury at center, Dozier at guard, and then Brian O'Neill at tackle, who has been a nice surprise since we picked him in the draft a couple years ago. The offense, Bradbury didn't have a great rookie season. It was kind of up and down. Elflein is just struggling to stay on this team and in this league, if you will. I think he's bound for backup duty on another team probably next year. So the guard position has plagued us for a number of years, and if we don't get that figured out, we're going to have to, spend some serious draft capital to go get a guy in the draft if there is another Quentin Nelson or somebody that we can move inside, like an Elton and Jenkins on the Packers, if you will. For the skill position players, we traded away Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills after he made it clear that he was not happy with the direction of this team and didn't want to be in Minnesota any longer. And that enabled us to get another first-round pick, which we used on LSU's Justin Jefferson. So he's going to have to step in and play immediately. And from everything that I've seen so far in training camp, it looks like he is a team favorite. Also on the other side, you have Adam Thielen, who probably had his worst year of his career last year. With serious injury problems, couldn't stay healthy. Just a very overall down year for Adam Thielen as a whole. For wide receiver 3, I wrote in BC Johnson, but let's face facts. Before I recorded this, I probably should have switched that spot to Irv Smith Jr. because they're going to run 2 tight end sets all day, every day. So your tight ends are, of course, Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr. Very excited to see what Irv Smith does in his second year as a tight end. And Kyle Rudolph is your old, reliable, one of the more dependable tight ends in the league, who's not going to, come at you with the highlight reel plays like a Travis Kelce or a Zach Ertz, and he's not going to stomp all over you and statistically like a George Kittle, but he's one of the more reliable security blankets that you can find around at the tight end position. So that is, of course, your look at the depth chart so far, and I want to close it out with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback position. Once again, it was nice to see that we did spend a draft pick on a backup quarterback in Nate Stanley from Iowa, but at the same time, I don't understand what we see in Sean Mannion. Maybe it's just his familiarity with the offense. But the backup quarterback position, QB2, needs to be addressed a little bit better, in my opinion. That's one of the spots we're really struggling with. Because if Kirk Cousins goes down, I'm afraid that this might be a wash. And then with the running back situation, we of course have Dalvin Cook, who had an amazing year last year, which we all knew he would if he was able to stay healthy. Now the contract talks have arisen. He is in training camp, but he still wants a new contract. With the backup positions, I'm pretty confident that we have a solid backup, stable of running backs behind him in Alexander Mattison, Michael Boone. We also, I believe, still have Amir Abdul on the roster, but he's primarily for a return game. But Madison played well in his limited appearance last year, and I like the energy that he brings to the table. So can Alexander Mattison be an every down running back? I'm not sure about that, but at least we have him if Dalvin Cook decides to hold out for longer than week 1. So that is the projected starting depth chart, at least in my opinion. That's just coming from one fan. Other Vikings fans, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this roster. Moving on, let's take a look at the schedule. We open up with the Packers at home, Colts on the road, Titans at home, Texans and Seahawks road games back-to-back, home game against the Falcons. We got the Packers on the road at week 8, and then, of course, we round out the first half of the season, week 9, with a home game against the Lions. Bye week is week 7. Now, once again, I'm really getting tired of having to go to Seattle. I'm tired of having to make that road trip. This should have been a home game this year. I'm I'm just tired of it. That's my grievance right there. I'm gonna air it out for everybody to hear. First half of the schedule, a lot of potent teams. You get the Packers twice, you get the Titans, the Texans are still pretty good, and of course you got the Falcons, which thankfully you get at home. And that road trip to Seattle is never easy, and that Seattle is just a hard team to beat, especially in their place. For the second half of the schedule, we got the Bears on the road, the Cowboys, Panthers, and Jaguars all at home. Bucks on the road, Bears at home, and then we end the season with the Saints and the Lions on the road. That Week 16 game against the Saints in New Orleans scares the crap out of me, because that feels like Hollywood is writing the script for that to be a trap game that's going to end our season, because we've ended the Saints season in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years in dramatic fashion, and I believe they're thirsty for some revenge, especially Michael Thomas. So that Week 16 game, if that game shows up on the schedule and it's time to play and things are on the line for the Vikings, like your playoff hopes, your divisional title hopes, and we go in there and we lose, oh man, I'm predicting it now. If that happens, it was just a script right out of Hollywood, and they couldn't write it any better if they tried. We also get a nice 3-game home stretch, Cowboys, Panthers, Jaguars. The Cowboys are going to definitely be a competitor this year. The other 2 are in flux right now, so those are going to be, hopefully winnable games, at least at home. And then going on the road against Tom Brady, I'm very excited for that game, because, it's got to be his last season, right? That'd just be a cool game to watch in Tampa, Vikings versus Tom Brady, especially with this young secondary. So that is a quick look at the Vikings 2020 schedule. The 2 big storylines I, of course, am looking for this season are the pass defense. We got a lot of young talent. Jeff Gladney, Cam Dantzler, Mike Hughes, very, very young at the cornerback position. Not any well-established veteran that can step in and sort of hover over a wide receiver 1 for an entire game. So it's going to be a lot of different interesting looks. And how do you improve with this group from a pass defense that was 15th? The second big storyline, I've already mentioned, the Cook contract. How long is he going to hold out? Will this be a thing? Remember, the Vikings are pretty strapped for cash, so they'll probably have to get creative with it, at least as creative as Kansas City has been with their free agents this year. And then, of course, my favorite draft pick, and you might be thinking, well, you're just going off recent news. No, I've loved Cam Dantzler since he walked into the building. That I felt was one of the more underrated draft picks that they made. There was another one, KJ Osborne, who's mostly probably going to be a return specialist. And then, of course, I loved the Gladney pick. He was the guy I wanted in the first round right from the get-go, ever since I was looking at scouting draft picks back in early February. And Justin Jefferson is a nice pick as well. But Cam Dantzler feels like he could be a steal and work his way into the starting lineup in some way or fashion. So that is going to do it for this episode of the outlook for the 2020 Minnesota Vikings. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.